Alrighty, folks, we're back again. We are on a roll. We have a ton of AmeriCorps alum that are working for AmeriCorps programs that are recruiting AmeriCorps members for the 24-25 service year. So we're doing a special edition of the Recruitment Extravaganza 2024. And we're here with another guest. Gerard Chapelle is with us from Public Allies, and we're going to get into his story and also give some time to highlight the program that he's recruiting for. So if you're new to this channel, this is the AmeriCorps Connections podcast, and I'm Nicki Fiocco, and I'm really the brainchild that came up with, hey, let's just start talking to AmeriCorps alums and hear their stories and find out where they're at across the United States. And also I interviewed somebody that's in Germany. So we are all over the place. And it was really just a genesis of me wanting to keep connections with folks that have done a service year, and also that I wanted to learn, like, what resources could we share with each other as AmeriCorps alum? What opportunities could we open up for each other because we share that similar service experience? So before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to Dan Medevere of Time and Money. He was the very first AmeriCorps alum to step up. He's an NCCC alum, and he was able to get this podcast on all of the podcast platforms like iTunes and Spotify. So thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate your support. And it was very exciting this beginning of this year. Sharon Tewksbury Bloom and her all alumni staff reached out and wanted to support the podcast on the back end. So they're doing some editing and also marketing of this podcast. And her organization, she's the CEO of Do Good, Be Good. So thank you so much, Sharon and team, for supporting on the back end. Before we get started, also, I want you to just, if you're new and you're kind of learning about AmeriCorps, right now this is being recorded in May. And so from May until like July or August is really the height of AmeriCorps recruitment season. This is when AmeriCorps programs from across the country are looking for folks to serve in their programs. We lost our guest, but he'll be back. Oh, he's back. Along with a stipend, you get some benefits, and a lot of these programs have wraparound services to help you during your service year and then transition after. So I'm really excited to hear from Gerard today. I believe you're a Public Allies alumni, and you're also working for Public Allies. Public Allies is not sponsoring this podcast, but maybe they should. Just putting it out there. So Gerard, I kind of fell into my service year. I didn't really know. I wasn't seeking an alumni experience or an AmeriCorps experience, but I'm really happy that I did. So what was how did you find your AmeriCorps opportunity? And then what was your service year like?
Yeah. So Public Allies, it kind of fell in my lap at the exact right time. I didn't know for sure what I really wanted to do with myself. I was working in like construction and things of that nature. And, I have a daughter that's 15, and it's like, I'm tired of picking things up and putting it down. Right. I'm
Yeah.
tired of lifting heavy things. Like it got old. It got old kind of fast. So I was actually at Houstonic, which is a community college in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And so that's where we're based. We're a national program. So we have 13 other sites all around the U.S.
Oh, wow.
So I went to a career fair, and Yancey was there. And so cool guy. He's like, hey, how do you feel about being an ally? And I'm like,
What?
well, I have to pick things up and put it down. Like, what is that? So when he finally broke down the program, I was like, man, this sounds awesome. And then just, what caught me most, it was the mission statement, which is we strive to create a more just and equitable society and a diverse leadership to sustain it. Right. And once he said that, I said, dang, that sounds like something I can be a part of. I want to be a leader. Right. I'm
Yeah.
diverse. Right. I'm big on nonprofits, and I always wanted to work in the nonprofit field, specifically with like return to citizens. And he said, yeah, sign up. And I signed up. I got called for an interview, and it was just up from there.
And so what does a public ally do? What does an ally? That's cool. So you guys are just called allies. What does an ally
Yep.
do during their service year?
So an ally is one of AmeriCorps service members, right? So we place our allies within 10-month paid apprenticeships within placement sites all around Connecticut. So we're in Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford, which are the biggest cities in our state. And we place our allies within other nonprofits. and it gives them the opportunity to grow individually and like gain experience and see what it really means to be within this field. But it also gives the partner organization the ability to have someone there to help grow like new programs and help grow like if it's something that they've been wanting to do but they don't have the time nor do they have like the manpower, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tend to put them in this space, but they work a lot to just help and grow these nonprofits the best way that they can, and they also get to grow themselves. Like we give every Friday we do trainings on like leadership development and
Nice.
just group dynamics and just learning with the 101 of nonprofits. And we're trying to send them back to their placements with more skills so they can be better at their jobs there. And it's
That,
more about gaining experience, right? So it's a 10-month paid apprenticeship, and at the end you get an educational reward of $6,895. So if you want to go to school, something of that nature, it's an awesome way to start, in the nonprofit sector.
yeah. It sounds like they're kind of, would you say that the allies are capacity building in organizations?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. What's it? A performance measure. I feel like it gives AmeriCorps members an opportunity to be a little bit creative and kind of figure out where their sweet spots are, and then also kind of look for like support and resources where they find that they have some weaknesses, right? Like if they're not really great in written communications, but they're super amazing at like putting together databases and stuff like that, then I feel like a service year in a capacity building atmosphere allows that AmeriCorps member to build on their strength and support the organization by building out an awesome database while also learning how to be a better communicator in written communication, whatever the skill is that they want to learn. And I also just want to really double click on you saying that you provide training every Friday. Like,
Mhm.
this is such a massive opportunity because a lot of times you just don't get that in the workforce. And doing an AmeriCorps service year and doing one with Public Allies specifically, you're going to get that poured into you. And at the end of the year, there's no choice. You're going to have transformed. You're going to have learned something. You're going to have
Mhm.
be a better person on the other end. When you served with Public Alliance, where did you feel like your growth came from? Like, what were some of your biggest takeaways from your service year?
Okay, so my biggest takeaway, I would say, hold on one second, Chief.
It's a puppy. We like dogs on this podcast.
He is
Or is it
he is a puppy. He is, and I trained dogs for some time, so I'm trying to get him in to understanding what it means to be trained. And the more and more people here, the harder and harder it is to train him. But he's got it. Chief, come down. Good boy, stay. He's just happy, right? He just wants to like, please pet
yes.
me, all right? Touch me, please.
Love
I
it.
know you want to. I know you're here for me. You came
Well, we
here
like
for
the pitter
me.
patter of the paws in the background. That's a fun
Oh,
noise.
okay. Yeah, because I don't think he's gonna stay. If I'm not paying him no attention, he's gonna smell everything, right? But so one more time, can you ask me the question? I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, no. So just like reflecting on your service year, what were some of the skills that you built out? Like you went in, you
Okay.
were doing construction. So obviously you didn't have, or maybe you did. That's some of the office skills or some of the communication skills that
Yeah.
you might need when you're working in a nonprofit and not on a construction site. What were some of the things that you learned and you felt like you were able to grow during your service year?
Yeah. So I learned a lot actually. Like my first placement, I was placed at a halfway house, which was awesome for me because that's kind of the pathway that I wanted to go.
Mm.
Right. So I got the opportunity to see what like counselors actually do there. Like how are they, helping these guys and things of that nature. Cause I had no idea. Right.
And for folks
So,
that don't know what a halfway house is, could you explain what that is?
yeah. So they have 4 levels. Right. So, and it all depends on the crime that's committed, but we're just going to start with 4. So you go from a 4, then you drop down to a 3, which is a little bit more freedom. Then you drop down to a 2, which is way more freedom. Then you drop down to a 1. So a 1 is considered a halfway house. You actually leave the facility and you live in a house with other guys coming home from incarceration, and they give you time to go out, get certain things, like get your social security card, get your ID, get your license, and find a job. And they let you out for like, I'm say the most I've ever seen someone out was like they was working a 12-hour shift.
Oh,
And
wow.
that 12-hour shift, yeah, like that's one thing that a lot of the guys do. They work a lot because they know that they have families that they have to come home to, and they don't want to be a burden, right? They don't want to have to come home and live in their mother's basement, right? And then, taking
Hmm.
up space. So they work and work and work a lot, and they're not usually at the halfway house much. But and a lot of the guys, they deal with like substance abuse, so they have like programs within the halfway house, and like and things to help them out, and in this nature. But it's like the last level before you're actually freed from these facilities,
Hmm.
right? And it's an awesome place. It can be an awesome place, or it can be kind of, I've
Yeah.
learned from dealing with multiple houses now, it cannot be the best place for some people. Some people aren't ready. They're
Yeah.
not ready for that amount of freedom, and they tend to just leave and not be
Mm.
seen again. And you're essentially escaping from jail when you do that, right?
I
So
don't think that's good, right?
that is not good,
That is
right?
not
You don't want
good.
to do that, and you don't want to do that. But yeah, that's what a halfway house is. They got them all over the state. They have them from federal, and they have them for state. And I had the opportunity to work at a state halfway house, and yeah, it was good, man. I met a lot of good dudes. I met a lot of guys that was incarcerated for like. I met one guy who was incarcerated for 41 years, right?
Wow.
And it's like, I'm
How are
37
you?
now. I was working, yeah, like I was working there when I was 31, and I'm like, bro, you went. He's like, yeah. And, just having the opportunity to, a smartphone, an iPhone, he's never even,
Yeah.
he can't even fathom, emails, all of this type of stuff. He can't. And this is the need. This is where the need comes in, and where there has to be people that understand this community and that's willing to help and like passionate to help, because these guys are coming back into the community, whether you want to or not, or whether you
Yeah.
want them to or not. So someone should be there to help guide them. And just, a lot of stress comes with coming home. You have nothing, you've lost everything most of
Hmm.
the time. So it's like you need someone there to just be there for you to call, like, hey, I'm stressing, I don't know what to do with myself, I'm not getting enough hours. How am I gonna get an apartment when I get out of here if I don't got enough hours? And my family, my child is not a child anymore, he's
Right.
17, and so it's a lot that comes with that, and we need more and more people to work within these fields. But that's what a halfway house is. I'm sorry, I'll start rambling, Nicki.
Yeah, no, I can tell that you're very passionate about that. And so you were brought into this opportunity just, I guess Public Allies was like, hey, we have this placement. Are you interested? And then they provided you with the training so you could do the work within that. But that wasn't something that you were necessarily seeking out. And I think that
No.
that is like so important when we reflect on just life. I mean, we can say AmeriCorps, but life in general, where we just don't know where, like, I'll give a great example. We were putting on for my 9 to 5, we were putting on a field trip, and we were trying to find a slot for the 2 to 4 hour. What were we going to do between those hours? We had all the morning set, the afternoon was set, but we couldn't, every time we tried to reach out to somebody, they weren't available, they couldn't accommodate us, blah, 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 blah. And I finally said, you know what? For some reason the universe doesn't want us to do something at 2 to 4, so let's just like go with the flow. Let's just see what the universe is going to produce for us, or God, or whatever you believe in. what it, let's just follow our intuition and figure out what that last 2 to 4 is going to be like. It might just be all of us sitting around connecting, but I think when
Mm-hmm.
we are given new opportunities where we had no idea like that even existed, or that you could even make a difference in that space, it changes you as a person. So when you went in there, what kind of things were you responsible for?
So like, just to start a little bit more from the beginning. So at Public Allies, they kind of, so they actually will ask about your pathways. Like, what do you want to do with yourself?
Mm,
Like, where do you see yourself working? Right. And I didn't really have. I've always liked working with people. I'm a talker. I like to talk and have conversations, build reports. That's something that I've always just been into. So I was like, I like to work with people. And they like, do you have a specific people you like to work with? Because we have a lot of placements out here. Like, you can be
yeah.
working, you want to work with kids, you want to work with adults, you want to work with, and I'm like, you know what? I would like to work with guys coming home from incarceration because, that's a big thing within my life and my family. A
Mm,
lot of men in my family have been incarcerated. And I know I've seen it like firsthand how much help, is needed. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do this. And then you interview with the placement site now. So the placement has the
yeah.
opportunity to say, I don't think this guy's built for this. Can you give me another ally? And Rob, he was fond of me, and he gave me the opportunity, and he did not have to because I didn't know much about the field, but he gave me that opportunity, which is awesome. Right. And so, yeah, some of the things that I've learned. So the first month of being in the halfway house, it was more like intake work,
Mm,
right? Just
okay.
taking information, figuring out what's most needed, what was most needed from us by the guy coming home. And so I also work with women as well. So they have women halfway houses and men, but this specific nonprofit, they have women and men halfway houses. So I got the opportunity to work with like both, and there's a different dynamic there, right? You
Yeah.
you you, you got to, yeah, you have to change the way that you deal with different people, But that the intake work was good. Just understanding that it just blew me away, the lack of resources that a lot of these guys had. So it's like, hey, so okay, so who's gonna come and get you when your time is up here? And they're like, no one. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's cool. So all right, so where's the plan? What's the plan? Where do you plan on staying? They're like, no, nowhere. I don't have to find a job. I'm gonna be homeless. And I'm like, damn, okay. I'm like, all right, okay, we got you. So how do you feel about school? And they're like, I'll go to school. And in Connecticut, our community colleges are free.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And they have grants. They have grants for guys that's actually coming home in like specific like spaces for them. Like they have like I think four. I think they have human services, and then it's human services, business, and machine, like something to do with like machines or
Mechanic
something
or
of that
whatever.
nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like you just can do it for free. You get associates, you learn a lot, and you'll be able to work. Right. And this is why I love Connecticut a lot as well, because we're a liberal state, but we are a second chance state. Right.
Mm,
We'll give you the opportunities. If you are incarcerated, when you come home, opportunities are here. It's just up to you to take them. So yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it is. It's good. But one of the first things I learned was like the intake work, just taking down information, figuring out certain plans for the guys. Like some guys don't need anything. Some guys have a family when they come home. They still have their house. Their wives took care of their house, their cars. They don't have to think much. But they're not mentally ready.
Yeah. I could see
Yeah, they're
that.
not. Yeah, so you work with them. You'll work with them on that. Like, hey, and it's usually like core values that needs to
Mm,
change. Like they've been programmed for such a long time and around certain people for such a long time, especially being incarcerated. It's not the best people, right?
yeah.
They're incarcerated for a reason, right? They made mistakes, but their core values is what actually brought them to this place. And if you go in there and you don't work on yourself, you will it won't be a good thing. You'll come home, you'll be the same person or worse.
Hmm.
Right. So with just those things, having conversations about what truly matters in life, like why do you not want to go back to jail? Right.
So it sounds like you learned so much in during your public allies. After your service year, what did you do? Did you go right into working for public allies, or where did you go
Yeah.
after that?
So I'm a 2.0. So I had the opportunity to do public allies twice. My second year, I was placed with the 39 Bridgeport Public Schools. Right. So I got to work with the LEAP program. It's the Leadership Engagement Attendance Program. We worked to like curb absenteeism. After COVID, kids just weren't going to school. Right.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out why, like what's going on here. So we went and knocked on doors, talked to parents, or new uniforms because their uniforms are old or too small, and or like a lot of the kids were watching. There's not a good enough reason to not go to school, right? So there's a problem. I actually had a couple of people that was willing to, a couple of like certified like nurses and things of that nature to come and actually watch kids for a certain amount of time. It was good. It was a really good program, and yeah, so that's what I did the second time. So when I was almost done with my time, the person that actually recruited me he was leaving. And when he was leaving, I was then asked by a director, hey, how would you feel about being a program manager? And I'm like, I would love to be. I'm like, if I can do what, if I can give to other people what you guys gave to me,
Yeah.
I I would love this. I would love that job. And they hired me. They hired me on, and I'm still here.
That's so cool. How long have you been with them?
So it's has to been at least 3 years. Been like 3 years.
Great. That's so cool. From construction worker to public ally, Gerard Chapel's experience. That's so amazing. And so now you get to recruit AmeriCorps members. And you have, what's the process? I'm just curious. We'll go into the member experience, but when you partner with other sites, do you do any of that? Like, do you look for new sites, or what,
Yeah.
how could an organization partner with public allies to get an ally in their organization?
So it's more of a it's more of a like a director. There are director Shanae Ransom. She does more of looking for partners, right?
Gotcha.
But the program managers, we are all from our cities. So I'm from Bridgeport, Alexandra's from New Haven, and Shanae, she's from the Hartford area. So we kind of know a lot of the organizations around us. So we
Yeah.
just, you know, we try to find certain people that might be willing, and then we just make a connection, and then we shoot them to Shanae, and then she goes and she breaks down everything that's needed and what's the purpose. And if they it's some people will want to be a partner, but they won't really need an ally. So it will cause
Mm,
an ally just to be there doing nothing, right? And now they can't
yeah.
grow. Now they're not getting
Right.
experience. It's like we don't want that. But there's a fee that comes with it. I think the fee just changed as well. I don't know the fee because that's also not my thing. But
Right. Right. Right.
there's a lot of there's we have a lot of placement sites in different areas. It all depends on what you're into, and that's what's great. So any ally that comes, you don't have to know what you're into. We have a whole bunch of different things from working with animals to working in a halfway house. So it all depends on where and what you where you want to be placed. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Nikki. Yeah. So yeah, you can be working with llamas, or you can be working with guys coming home from incarceration, right? So what are you into? Like where do you fit in here?
The
And we give them
scale.
the opportunity. Exactly. We give them opportunities to just try something new as well. You know, you can be coming out of a certain industry, and it's like it gives you the opportunity to, you know what, let me see what it's like to work with kids. I've never worked with kids before. You know, you can work
Mhm.
in an elementary school and see what it's like to be a substitute or something of that nature. So it's good.
So let's talk about that. It sounds like what's the age range of public allies?
So it's 17 and up, but you have to have your high school diploma or GED. So it tends to be 18 and up, right? I haven't
Okay.
got a 17-year-old yet, but as long as you're 17 and up, and you can be an ally. I've had like Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson was 54, right? He's a preacher. And then I have like Keeley. Keeley's 19.
Right.
Right? And we all come together on Fridays to build and train and learn and grow. And it gives everybody the opportunity to, like, you know, feed off of each other and knowledge from different spaces and different types of people. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Volunteer Maryland was a program that I did my service year through, and I was also the director for a couple years. And we were also intergenerational. So it was so great to see the the season. I like to say there was seasoned, lightly sautéed, and the younger folks that would come in, and they would all work together to bring out the best in each other. And the bonds that were created it was just so fun to watch from a programmatic standpoint, and watch these relationships really flourish naturally. Okay, so public allies is you got to be get your have your GED or your high school diploma, so 17 and up. What's the
Mm-hmm.
time frame that your recruitment window is?
So it's a 10-month program. So we start recruiting like 3 4 months into it. We're back to recruiting. We're always looking for allies though. Like I
Okay.
like right like soon as the program start, I'm looking for more allies because you can fill out the application at any moment at any time. And once we start like actually doing interviews, we're gonna interview you. So you could fill an application out 9 months later. We'll be calling you to interview you.
Got you. Do you does the program start with a cohort, or is it a rolling enrollment basis?
No, it's a cohort. So our allies, they all graduate at once, and
Okay.
then we take on a whole nother new cohort of allies
And when does that new cohort start usually?
in June,
Okay. Oh,
usually
so
in
that's
June,
right around the corner. So if
right
somebody's
around the corner.
interested and they probably should get an application in now. And so you're recruiting for the Connecticut area, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But there's
Yep.
public allies across the country. If folks are interested and you're in, you know, Seattle, Washington, check to see if there's a
Yep.
public ally program out there for you. But if
Hmm.
you want to particularly reach out to Gerard, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about the opportunity or just checking it out?
Yeah. So it would be my name. It would be Gerard C at publicallies.org. So it would be GERARDC at publicallies.org.
Awesome. And if you're reaching out to him via his email, definite, and you've heard it on this podcast, please, please, please tell him that you were sent to his email and to this program through this podcast. We're kind of doing a beta test here to see what kind of actions folks take after they listen to this podcast. So unless maybe you're not interested, maybe you want to pass this along to somebody else that's looking to make some kind of change in their life, or they don't really know what they want to do next, definitely pass this information along to them. Okay, along with, so you have the Friday trainings, they're placed at a site, they kind of get to pick their site. You guys, have some preferences where you're able to connect folks. What else are some, and you get the education award that you can use after your service year. And if you want to like double that award or have that go further, check out Schools for National Service. And there's institutions across the country that either match or give some kind of matching something like book stipends or whatever to AmeriCorps alums. So check that out. What are some other benefits that an ally would get during their service year?
So the relationships that so 95% of our allies they end up getting hired by their placements, which is awesome.
That's
But
a
the
high
relationship,
percentage.
it is, and it's because people find their passions.
Hmm.
People find and they're like, you know what, I'm giving this a shot. I did it for 10 months and I loved it. I most likely can do this as a career, and which is awesome. But I mean, the rapport and the connections, the networking that's built, I feel like for me, I'm going to talk about me specifically, right?
Yeah.
With me, I've come to the realization that in the nonprofit field or just human service in general, the relationships that's being built can bring you to a whole nother level. And not just that, it it puts you in a group of people that all kind of have the same, goals, the same values, and which is awesome. And I feel like that's what makes us great, right? Being able to connect with different people that kind of care about the same things and just figuring out ways to help, figuring out ways to do things. So I believe like the networking is like key, is that because again we're in Bridgeport, Hartford, and New Haven, and we do our trainings in each city. We switch every Friday, so we're either in Bridgeport or we're in Hartford and New Haven, and we have trainers that come on that we connect with, that that kind of teaches us more and more about how to connect, how to communicate properly, how to
Hmm.
build these strong relationships with people that you do not know at all. And I feel like that's key. I feel like that's the biggest the biggest thing that's gained, but just also just the skills built within these organizations. A lot of our allies, they go into these places and then they're trained. Like we
Hmm.
don't have to train them, but they'll be trained in their placement sites. Like when I was an ally, I got trained in like mental health first aid, which I've used multiple times since then,
Wow.
right? Just the tactics and understanding people and the things that they're going through and how to, relate and how to be a positive effect within their lives at those like pivotal moments,
Yeah.
which is key for me.
Yeah, I would
Um,
double down on any program that has a cohort kind of feel to it, that the connections and networking that you get, I mean, it's priceless, right? Like I'm in a leadership academy right now, and one of the things they said is your net worth is equal to your network. And it's so true. Like if you can bring people together and make change or help somebody expand their program or even just make a connection. Like I have a connection I want to check with you after we are finished recording, see if you're interested. But if you can bring value to people, then you are valuable. And I think that that's one of those things that helps when we are building out our communications and our connections and our network and these kind of programs. Well, this has been so great. I hope people are excited about Public Allies, and I hope everyone's like, oh my gosh, that podcast was so wonderful and inspiring, and Gerard was amazing, and Nicki's so inspirational. I can't wait to serve. Those are the kinds of like comments you can feel free. And if you are listening still and you haven't, please subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and also like and share if you're on the podcast lands. It really helps the channel to boost in the algorithms and get in front of more people, not us nerds that just are AmeriCorps nerds where we're like, everything is AmeriCorps. So Gerard, before we close out, is there anything else that you want folks to know about Public Allies, about you, about your service year, or anything else that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, I want to big up Public Allies and AmeriCorps in general because I've seen the effect that it's had on people, and I've seen how far people go after being an ally. And I'm always going to be a cheerleader for Public Ally forever because it's I've never seen anything like it, and it works. Right, I've been a part of other programs. I see a million programs now. I can say that Public Allies works, right? And everybody out there that's listening, I just want you guys to know and that there is a need for people helpers, right? There is a need for people to be out there and just, one of their main focuses in life is helping other people. People are in need. I feel like everyone should take a little bit of time out of their life to just help some people, help somebody with something, somewhere, somehow. It could be just giving a hug. I'm a hugger, right? So it can be anything or anywhere. Just take a little time out to watch your surroundings and see what's going on around you and make an effort to help out somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Perfect place to end. And I can tell that your service year in Public Allies has really affected you, and now you're able to give that back to folks that you're able to place, and then also nurture and support and coach during their service year. And I think that that's one of the blessings of being a program manager in an AmeriCorps program. So I know you have a crazy life with new dogs and new babies, and so thank you so much for taking this evening and sharing your story and the opportunity with Public Allies. If folks are interested, connect with Gerard. That's Gerard C at publicallies.com. Is it com?
Org.
And it'll all be in the show notes anyways. So thank you so much, and we'll be back with another recruitment extravaganza or just a regular conversation with AmeriCorps alum on the AmeriCorps Connections podcast. Thank you so much, and have a great whatever day, night, morning. See ya.